Okay, we're gonna go through now solving one-step equations. This is pre-algebra, and everything is just one step, and you get the answer. And you understand how to solve it. Some people I remember they do it in their heads. They don't know how to solve it really, and I'm trying to get a lot of students to break the bad habit. So I want them to write the steps, and it's very important to write the steps at this stage, just because you have to have a solid understanding on how to do algebra and not just to do things in your head. So let's start with the first problem here. 2x equals 8. So when you're doing algebra, you always try to do the opposite of whatever the sign is. So if it says addition, then you're subtracting. If you're multiplying, then you're dividing. Okay, if it's negative, you do negative again to get rid of it. It's kind of like you always do the opposite to cancel the other side. You always do it's almost like a contradiction kind of thing. Okay, so 2x equals 8. So what do you do here? It says 2x, so what's the symbol here? It's 2 times x, right? So if you want to solve for x, you divide by what? You divide by 2, right? You don't subtract 2, and that's what a lot of students initially do. They're like, oh, 2x is here. I'll just subtract 2. They always like to use the thing, oh, I'm going to get rid of it. But what do you mean by get rid of it? Are you dividing it? Are you subtracting it? I mean, you can't say get rid of it if you don't really know what you're going to do. But right here it says 2 times x, so you know you're dividing. That's why I'm dividing here, okay? And 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so 1x is just x, right? Okay? And 8 divided by 2, it's 4, okay? So that's the first example of the one-step equations, okay? And let's do another problem. So x minus 3 equals to 10. So what do? So to have x on one side, you gotta what? You gotta add 3, right? Because since it's x minus 3, plus 3 will make it a 0, and that's what you're trying to do. If you make it a 0, then it's gone from the left side, right? So algebra, you do it one side, you got to do it on the other side, okay? And that's just basically x equals 13, 10 plus 3, okay? Now this is one that I see a lot of students don't know in the beginning. When they see this, they freak out. They're like, oh no, negative x over 4, what do I do? I don't know this thing. Why is there a 4 in the bottom? And it's just confusing to them, okay? Just so you know, negative x over 4 is the same thing as negative 1/4 times x. It's a certain way to look at it like that. It's a little harder to, right now, but I want you to see that. It's a very common math problem that a lot of pre-algebra students don't understand. So negative x over 4, okay, what does over 4 mean? Divide, right? So what do? Opposite of division, you multiply, right? Instead of dividing, you multiply. So let's write it this way. Multiply by 4. But let's think about this. There's a negative sign here. Let's get rid of the negative sign too, because if you just multiply by 4, you're going to end up with just negative x, and you have to do another step. So let's multiply by negative 4. So think about this as negative 1/4, and then the opposite of that is just negative 4. Okay? And we do it on one side, you got to do it on the other side. Okay? So they both multiply by negative 4, both sides. This will just become 1x, or x, right? Because negative 4 divided by 4, negative 4 is just 1x. And then what's 5 times negative 4? Negative 20 from another lesson. Remember the multiplying and dividing on negative numbers? Okay. So now we go to number 4. Now instead of adding, you get like a negative number now. And usually negative numbers throw some people off at this early stage. So we have y minus 8 equals negative 6. So what do there? We want y by itself, right? So what do? It's minus 8, so you plus 8. So you always do the opposite. Okay? So this becomes 0, so it is y. Negative 6 plus 8 is 2. Okay? So now we have number 5. Here's those fractions again. I mean, they're always going to come back. You can't really avoid fractions in high school, so you're going to see more and more of it. The more you hate it, the more you resist it. There's no point fighting it. You're going to see more and more of it, and it gets worse. So you might as well just learn it, and once you learn it, you'll just, you'll master it. So we have 1/2 k equals to negative 6. So what do now? 1/2 times k. What's the opposite of 1/2? The reciprocal. You always do the reciprocal of it. Multiply by 2, right? If it's 1 divided by 2 here, okay, you multiply by 2, then it'll be gone. So let's do that. I'll explain it again. See, if you multiply by 2, what happens? It's 2 over 2, which is 1, 1k, right? 1k is just k, right? Equals to negative 6 times 2. So you get negative 12. Okay? So now this is another common one I've seen some students not understand. It's negative x equal to 7. So how do you solve that? I mean, what do you do? How do you move the negative over? How do you make it just a positive x and just, that's what you're trying to do? So it's really a negative 1 in front of it, right? It's negative 1 times x. So if it's negative 1 times x, I just want to let's divide it. Let's divide by what? Divide by negative 1. Negative x divided negative 1 will be just 1x. See how the negatives cancel out? Negative number divided by negative number is this positive? And then 7 divided by negative 1 will be negative 7. And that's how you do one-step equations. Feel free to ask me any questions and leave comments. And I'll move on probably to two-step equations now.